It is time to spend some money. We are going to upgrade this build. Shoot my shot. Yeah, we're going to do the big upgrade. So I bought a perfect Adorned and a 1 passive Voices for a total of about 3 mirrors. So these are very expensive. And then the idea is we can craft synthesized jewels. We're going to go really big today. And that's the plan. Crit multi spell damage. Okay, if we're gonna start off this strong. Okay. Damn. Okay. First one bricks. It was so good right off the bat. Oh, okay. Yeah, attack speed with a shield is actually one of the ones that we need. Okay. All right. And safe. You son of a... Okay. Oh, come on. You're kidding me. Oh my god. Okay, come on. Is this game broken? I'm never doing this again. And safe? Oh, we have one. All right, we have one. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Please. It's fun to spend a mirror on 1 jewel. Is it fun? Thank you. Is it fun? I guess it's a thing. Yeah. Bought up every single crit multi cobalt jewel this morning. There aren't any left. We're just deleting them at this point. If we run out, I'm gonna have to go to fracture crafting and then double corrupting. And then we'll see what we end up with. You know what they say, if you truly love something, you throw a lot of money at it and you hope it stays. Or, in this case, you open up PoB and you keep fiddling forever because you just want to keep tweaking it and you want to make it once you get in that rabbit hole of trying to make it better and better. I was just sitting down to record. I just finished editing the little intro that you guys watched, and then I started fiddling. And I just sat here for half an hour and I didn't stop. I love this build. If you haven't watched the video yet on the build guide, that's the previous video, the cast on crit Vortex Assassin. But what I've done the past week is just push it to the very extreme. And I want to go over the changes that I made and the options that you have if you are taking the build to this extreme, things that you can change and modify and tweak it to your own preferences. Because there are some things here that are absolutely personal preference and you can do whatever you want, go for more AoE, go for more quality of life, go for more defense, or just pure damage. And those are kind of like the 3 things that we're going to be tweaking right here. So starting off, what have I done with this build? What you saw at the beginning was this. So this is the Adorned. This is a jewel that you can get by collecting a few of the Vol pieces that you get them, basically the replacement for the old Ultimatum keys that they had last league. But when they added Ultimatum, they removed those keys for what they used to be, and now they make the Adorned Crimson Jewel. It's corrupted, it comes corrupted, and it goes between 50 and 150 for a roll. What it says is 150% increased effect of jewel socket passive skills containing corrupted magic jewels. So what that means is you can get up to 2.5x, right? It's 100 plus 150, 2.5x multiplier on the magic corrupted jewels that you have. So on a magic jewel, you can 2.5x 2 modifiers. So let's say you have 2 times 10% damage. So that will double. So 20 times 2.5, that's going to give you 50% on that modifier. And the real key here is you can focus on the 2 most important modifiers for your build, And if you're going for a min-maxed build, something like a critical strike multiplier scaler on your build, you can do something like craft jewels like this. Because I'm a full crit build, I can go for 2 perfect crit modifiers on a jewel here, and you can see that the 18 and the 15, they add up, and they multiply times 2.5, so I get 37 plus 45 for 82% crit multi on a single jewel. And as you saw in the intro, it is extra painful volleying these because they have the additional outcome of turning unique. So there's a lower chance of it not bricking when you vol it. So what I did to min-max this build is I bought a perfect Adorned, which was 0.7 mirrors when I bought it. And then I also, because we care about only jewels to scale this build right now, I bought a 1 passive Voices. This is a jewel that drops from Simulacrum for 2 mirrors. This is a very, very rare jewel, as you can tell by the price. It gives you 3 jewel socket passive skills, which allows you to socket 3 jewels. And since we only care about scaling jewels for this build primarily at the very high end, the more the better. In fact, the number 1 way to upgrade this build right now would be to get another 1 passive Voices. And I would drop this medium cluster, put this in here. Or actually, I'd probably drop this this crit multi cluster, put that in there. But yeah, that would be the biggest upgrade because then I could put in 2 more jewels versus what I have right here. And since each jewel can give me 82% crit multi, that would be 164% additional crit multi if I could add a 1 passive Voices to this build. Whereas these 3 points right here are only giving me 40% crit multi for the build. And that's just how insane the scaling gets at the high end when you spend a lot of money. But 2 mirrors right now is out of my budget. I did have a lot more currency. In fact, I could liquidate everything and probably buy a 1 passive Voices. And I am kind of thinking about doing that. That might be a thing that we look at doing. But the price of mirrors is going up as the value of divines is going down. So this is getting harder and harder to do. But I do have a good amount of stuff that I can liquidate right here. 308 fortunates. And I got a couple things right here that we could liquidate. So that would be the extreme upgrade for the build. Since this is a cast on crit build, there's a lot of fine tuning and tweaking to get all that. So for example, to get the exact 10.1% attack speed, I was actually able to, I had 2 jewels before. I was able to drop both of those jewels that had attack speed on it. I had a total of 15% attack speed across 2 jewels. Instead, I could get a single 6% roll on 1 jewel, and that will go to 2.5x, rounds down to 15%, which is perfect for us. I also put life on a single jewel. I get 17% increased maximum life on a jewel right here, and just getting that life pool a little bit higher is pretty nice. Although the crit multi suffix is a little inefficient, that could go to 15% if I went for the spell damage crit multi. But we did settle a little bit when we were crafting this. I got really sick of spamming alterations. I had to buy alterations. I had to buy a lot of annuls. Each one of these jewels probably cost me about 50 divines to craft. Some of the bases were about 5 to 10 divines. And then alterations, I was annulling. If I hit a single good mod, I was annulling. And then you had to divine it perfectly, which could be 20, 30, 40 divines. It was very, very painful to hit a perfect roll on both mods. And then you have a 1 out of 4 of actually hitting, it feels like. And then the other 3 out of 4, it's going to brick. So it is very, very painful. But if you want to go min-max, that is the thing you can do there. So the Adorned stuff was really cool. That allowed us to move a lot of things around. However, the real fun tweaks that I had a lot of fun doing was balancing the attributes as well as the accuracy, spell suppression, and cooldown recovery rate. That's kind of, with this build, the pain points, because we get a lot of crit chance from being Assassin. This is the nice thing about being Assassin versus Occultist. I was actually going to make a whole video on why I think Assassin is just way better than Occultist this league. Let me know below if you want me to make that video. But because we're Assassin, we actually get an additional 1.5 base crit chance, which allows us to not go for any crit chance at all on any of our charms. I do have it on my That Which Was Taken, but I don't have it on any charms. And this allows us to focus on really fun defensive and quality life things. One of the reasons why I think Assassin is better, and we'll get into it a little bit, is we start right here on the passive tree, and this allows us to have easy access to Inveterate. Whereas if we're a Witch, that's kind of hard to do, right? That's a lot more pathing on Witch. You have to go through all this. You're going to lose 5, 6, 7, 8 passives just to try to get down here and get Inveterate, which is much, much stronger than Instinct. And so with just 2 spell suppression charms and spell suppression on gloves and helmet, we are able to hit 100% true spell suppression. But the balancing point there is I previously had 12% CDR on one of my charms, and to get that back, I did have to purchase a level 6 Awakened Cast on Crit, which would get me over that 52% breakpoint. Even better would be to be able to divine my That Which Was Taken and get that 9% higher, but that 0.99% is just really, really hard to give up. It would feel bad to lose that on the roll, although I think I'm over my crit chance a good amount, so I could sacrifice that to get some more CDR and possibly go for a different role, but we do have one-off perfect spell suppression, but that's perfectly fine. We don't need that. I got Culling Strike on this one, and this is the same charm from the previous version of the build. Another really fun thing that I was able to do is I clicked the show node power right here in Path of Building. It told me what the best nodes were for my build, and actually, at the scaler that we were at, crit multi is kind of weak for our build. You can see it goes from 271 to 285 million DPS, which is only 5.1% increased damage on the top. For 3 passive points, which is, it's okay, but that's a little inefficient at that point. Aura Effect is actually really, really good for scaling our build. We get defense from pushing our Grace Effect, and we get a little bit of additional mana reservation efficiency. So I dropped some crit multi-jewels because we have so much crit multi on this build. I actually hit 880 at one point. It's a linear diminishing returns. It's not actually diminishing, but the bucket's so full that putting a little bit more on it, you don't even notice. It was more efficient to go for aura scaling. And that with a little mana reservation efficiency on 1 jewel, this 2% actually goes to 5% because of Adorned. I was able to save. I'm just going into the little tweaks here to understand how, just to show you guys how this works. Is I got, I saw that I had enough mana by getting a little mana reservation here. I was able to get enough mana to drop both of these points, which saved me a passive point, which gave me an additional 6% aura effect. And that saves me a passive point. And that's the cascading effect of when you save a single passive point right here, or you get one modifier that allows you to lower the level of your vitality, get a little bit more mana, move some stuff around. You can really, really tweak and fine tune every little thing. Let's see. And the final thing I want to talk about for the passive tree is this right here. So I am giving up some damage for quality of life and area of effect right here. So I am going for a vast power and towering threat medium cluster jewel. This is one of the things that Occultist does have over Assassin is free area of effect scaling. So Occultist has based in right here on Forbidden Power, 6% increased AoE per power charge. Having that built in is really, really nice. And this build really does need AoE to scale, particularly since we're using Vortex instead of Ice Nova, because Ice Nova just already has a much bigger base AoE. And we want to scale that. So I do recommend having one area effect on one of your charms, or your that which was taken. And then at the very high scaling, add in Vast Power. This gives us 7% area effect per power charge, which is bigger than Occultist by its own. And this gives us plenty for anything that we could want. Also, the nice thing is that because we have so much crit multi, increased damage is actually almost on parity with crit multi. Like 20% increased damage is almost the same damage as 20% crit multi right now because I have so much. And then I'm using Towering Threat right here. You could go for something else besides Towering Threat. Magnifier would be more damage, but Towering Threat is just nice. Get a little bit more AoE and get some more life. Again, going for quality life instead of just pure damage. An alternative, if you just want pure damage, is to drop this, go for Whispers of Doom, and add an Elemental Weakness. And I can show you guys how crazy that is. So if you want the pure damage configuration, take this off. So this is the Arctic Cobalt Jewel. Put that right there. And we grab Whispers of Doom. And then we can add on Elemental Weakness. And this puts us up to 332 million DPS. This configuration gives me 50 million more DPS. But I actually don't think it's worth it. I would rather take the quality of life, and the loss of quality life on the area of effect and the life, I think is not worth it. Not to mention that this also costs a gem socket, and it requires you to press an additional button for cursing. So it's like kind of annoying. It's not, it's not necessary. And this build already kills Ubers in like 3 seconds. So it's really, really overkill. That's why I decided not to do it. And I prefer going for the medium cluster jewel right here. Oh, funny. Never mind. What it's doing here is with Assassin's Mark, we're actually at 285 million DPS, but I actually do more damage with Ellie Weakness than Assassin's Mark. That's funny. Okay, so I could actually, there we go. Here's another little tweak that we just discovered. We have so much crit chance and so much crit multi on this build that Elemental Weakness is more damage than Assassin's Mark. How crazy is that? So I can actually get back an additional, I get more damage and I get a gem socket back for the cost of having to press a button for cursing the enemy. But yeah, check that out. How funny is that? I think I'm going to keep Curse on Hit just for some good quality life, and having this much crit multi does allow us to focus more on increased damage for scaling. Like we're always balancing these numbers and considering what we're looking for our min-maxing. It's important to not get caught in a local maxima of, oh, this tells me this is the most damage right now, But if I want to scale more increased damage in the future, I want to keep the crit multi high because that keeps the value of the increased damage higher as well. And since we already have so much invested in the crit multi, it's valuable to understand I'm probably going to be looking at increased damage. And in fact, if I did buy a 1 passive voices, there's a chance that it's actually better to go for the increased damage than the crit multi. And I can show you guys how and why anyway. This video is just a long rant of me going over all the numbers and everything anyway. If you're already this far, you're already tucked in anyway, so let's just keep talking about it. So yeah, what you want to do, and you can check out my PoB video on how this works. I made a couple of videos actually in the past couple weeks, is if you want to see the best value for your build, you want to find one of your jewel sockets right here. So right here, socket number 14. I can just click find best, and it will calculate the mod weights for what's better for the build. And then you'll generate a Path of Exile trade link to see how that works. And we can just open this up right here, and you will see the modifiers that and how it weights them and what's best for the build. So we see the weighting right here. If you just want to know how this works, basically it is saying, hey, this is worth this X of the other modifiers. So it's saying that crit multi is worth 1.2x, the value of the DPS for the build. Whereas pen, right, we already have so much increased damage. We already have so much multi that pen is actually the lowest thing that we've scaled so far in the build. Damage penetrates is worth 5.4x. 5.4 divided by 1.2, it's actually worth 4.5x. So every 1% pen is worth 4.5 crit multi for this build. So we value that very highly. We can also see that flat damage is worth 0.8 versus 1.2 for the crit multi. Flat damage is actually really good as well. A little bit more flat damage is worth almost as much as the crit multi. Increased damage is also 0.86 to the 1.2 of crit multi. So crit multi is still the best, but if I had another 100 or 200 crit multi, and actually let's show how this works. Check this out. If I have plus 100% to critical strike multiplier, now I added another 100 crit multi. I'm at 916. Let's regenerate this time. Let's do socket 14 again. Crit multi is only worth 1.08 now instead of 1.2. By adding more crit multi, you can see that the value that it weights it against is even lower. So at this point, increased damage is reaching parity with multi, like 1-to-1. And the rolls on increased damage are going to be higher already. And then if we actually do the search, you do want to set the min for the weighted sum, something where you get less than 10,000 results. We can sort by the sum, and we can find the best jewels for this build. And we can actually see that it's still valuing crit multi a lot, and it also does sneak in some defensive modifiers, like maximum life is valued right here. You can turn that off if you don't want life, but you can see there's these jewels right here. These would actually be a downgrade for the build versus the Adorned jewels. So be careful about that. But it's good to just get a rough estimate of what it's valuing for the build. And you can see that this one that has all crit multi is really close in the value to the build versus this one that has increased spell damage with the crit multi, 58.9 versus 58.4. It's just really good to understand the scalars for your build. And again, right, as one number gets bigger and bigger, that means it's better for the other numbers to get bigger because they're all multiplying with each other. 100 times 10 is 1,000. 101 times 10 is 1,010. 100 times 11 is 1,100, right? So if you add 1 to the smaller number, that's how you scale your build. So if you ever ask the question, what's the best modifier for scaling my build? It always depends. There is never a modifier that is always best for your build. You have to understand what you're scaling and what's the biggest number and what to look for to, min-max your damage or min-max your defense or whatever you're looking for. And the only way to know is, go into PoB, look at the numbers and compare. A little side teaching lesson right there. Next up, what I've done with this build, we'll just go over that's the passive tree and all the stuff that I did here. There's a lot of fiddling, and I've spent many, many hours kind of tweaking all of these numbers and making sure that they're to my tastes, but that's just the choices that I made there. The next thing is just the crazy items that I have. I did mirror an additional ring right here. So yeah, we also did some original sin double crops for a viewer, and then we skin transferred the bricked ones. I think we bricked every single one yesterday. But someone else that's playing this build, they ended up with a really good ring base. We actually talked to them about crafting it up to mirror for us. And so they crafted this ring for us, and we did mirror it for them. So we have double mirrored rings right now, which is really cool. And this one, unlike this one, I was able to ask for a perfect craft for our build. I needed the lightning res. I needed the chaos res. We wanted that flat damage, literally perfect ring for the build, which is awesome. The same person also went for double corrupting badge of the brotherhoods. I did 25 of my own, and I never hit +1 curse and something else. They hit +1 curse and grace. They were quitting the league anyway, so we traded our old +1 curse for +1 curse grace. A little bit nice, a little bit grace effect is pretty good. We just get a couple % more evade on that. The same person also was double crafting Mage Bloods. We traded our old Mage Blood for this one. This one has crit chance and zealotry effect on it. This one helps us keep our crit chance maxed out, which actually, this is what cascaded all of the upgrades actually, is by min-maxing my crit chance a little bit more, I was able to drop all 4 of these points right here because I didn't need the crit chance for my Cyclone anymore. And that allowed me to go for all of the cascading changes that ended up where we are today. For the final upgrades for this build, the one thing we're doing is we recrafted this helmet with a gilded fossil. That's why we have 3 implicits. And what we can do is use a Hinocor's lock, which is currently locked right now. That's why it's purple. And I can hover a Vol Orb over it, and it'll show me the outcome when I hover over it. You can see when it changes. And so the outcome here is that it changes nothing. This is a no change Vol Orb. I can just recraft that Fizz taken as, and it'll remove the Hinocor's lock. I can buy another Hinocor's lock for 50, 60 divines and hover it with another Vol Orb. We want to see an outcome where it changes that item sells to vendors, implicit change to something else. Ideally, +1 max power charge, which is like a 1 in 250 of hitting. But if it does hit, so, oh, actually I have it already typed in. If I uncomment that out, that gives me 31 million more DP if I get 1 more max power charge. And right, it gives me more AoE, more crit chance, more speed even because we're Badge of the Brotherhood. It just gives us so much. And yeah, every power charge is so huge. So that would be gigantic. Look at that. My attack rate is actually too high. I'd have to recraft that jewel with attack speed on it. 1% reduced attack speed. Let's get that down to the correct number. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'd actually need to go down to 11% increased attack speed from 15%, the one that we currently have. And this would actually bring us up to 330 million DPS. We get 45 million DPS if I got +1 max power charge. So that's the very final change that we're going for. We're spending, 100, 150 divines a day on Hinocor's locks. That's what we're doing on stream every day. That's our final upgrades, but I'm not holding my breath for that. And that's it. This is the most min-maxing I've ever done on a build. Previously, the most I've ever spent on anything is like 500 divines. That was probably my CoC FR build. I self-crafted everything. I usually try to keep my builds in like the 1 to 200 divine range, something realistic for most people. But this league's crazy. Everyone's rich this league. Chaos and Crit Ice Nova is actually what kicked off my entire streaming career with my old Golemancer version of that. And kind of revisiting that with the crazy power that we have this league, the crazy currency that we have this league, and just pushing it to its extreme. It's been a blast for the past couple weeks. But yeah, this is, besides these Hinocor's locks, this is the end of the build for me. It's been a blast. Gauntlet starts tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to play, to be perfectly honest. I might actually start looking at league start testing, playing around with ideas there, and just kind of chilling and working on guides for you guys for the next league. But yeah, it's been a really good league. It's been really fun. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you all. Yeah, thanks for watching all this long ranting and all this additional stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, hope to see you guys on the stream. Have a good one. Bye-bye.